And I am Lydia Cedevaca Cruz. I am the program coordinator for Mexican American Studies program, which is in the Interdisciplinary Studies department here at Austin Community College. It has been my great pleasure over this past 4 weeks or so, this past month, to co-host this event series, this Latinx Heritage Month event series, with my great colleague, Gary Moreno, who is director of El Centro, also at Austin Community College. We have gotten to know so many wonderful folks from the community, and we have gotten to see truly the excellence that defines our communities, and to celebrate that. And we're looking forward to continuing to celebrate that with our speakers for today. So without further ado, I am going to introduce our panelists for today. With us, we have Edie Rodriguez. Edie is an Indigenous digital strategist, independent network producer, and artist. She is originally from San Antonio, Texas, but has lived for the past 8 years in Mexico in political exile. Her work sits at the intersection of the digital world, social and environmental justice, and the arts, with specific focus on decolonization and digital resistance. She's the founder of Chica Media Networks and actively uses digital strategy, multimedia, and the arts to assert digital power towards effecting positive social change. As a digital strategist and activist, she actively collaborates with people of color and Indigenous communities locally and internationally who defend the water from the front lines of the northern and southern US borders, defend sacred sites and provide cultural programs, community care services, and land relationships, reclaim traditional birthing practices, provide direct assistance to migrants, provide human-centered ethical data library and mapping of humanitarian aid and danger zones along the US-Mexico border, and promote the rights of nature as a political framework to restore balance with nature in these times of ecological and resource emergency. As an artist and independent network producer, her current projects include modern Indigenous musical production and musical arts, frontline people of color community reporting and news, decolonization, rematriation, international fair trade online, documentary films, and immersive youth projects about Mexican American history and identity. And she is a graduate of the former Center for Mexican American Studies at the University of Texas at Austin, and alumni of the Racial Justice Communications Network by the Praxis Project at National Labor College in Washington, D.C., as well as the Inter-University Program for Latino Research at George Washington University, also in Washington, D.C. So you can see already the level of excellence that we are promoting today, that we are blessed to have with us today. We also have Austin artist Carmen Rangel, who goes by Viva La Painter, aka Viva La Painter. She is best known for her bright murals and public artwork exploring Latinx culture, honoring nature, and amplifying underrepresented people and stories. She creates her work using various materials and methods like large acrylic brushstrokes, aerosol fades, breaking glass tiles, to collecting and repurposing used materials. Though she's always been drawn to a career in the arts since childhood, Rangel didn't discover her passion for murals and public art until college while she was studying communication. Heavily influenced by the power of public art as a form of visual communication, she fully dove into the practice and has spent her 20s creating art all over Austin. I'm sure you've seen some of it, and hopefully we'll get to see some of it today. Recent clients include Austin Parks Foundation, Hope Campaign, Latinitas, Merrill, and the Cultural Arts Division. And last but certainly not least, we also have with us Plazothiano Jessica Zamarripa, who is a co-founder and presenter with the Institute of Chicana, Chicano, Chicanx Psychology. She is a longtime Austin, Texas mommy activist and community organizer working towards social justice within the Chicanx and Latinx community. She was an organizer for the collective Latina Mommy for more than 15 years. Her community home is Calpuli Teocalli Teoyot. The preservation of her culture and community is a driving force in her life. Jessica is a founding member of Academia Coahuila, a local Austin language and cultural revitalization school program for Spanish-speaking Mexican-American elementary students. She is also a past council member of Alma de Mujer for Social Change and a Danzante de la Luna and Danzante with Danza Mexica Xochipilli. Her writing, dancing, and community work is medicine toward the liberation, healing, and flourishing of her children and her people. Thank you all so much for being here. It's wonderful to have you. We truly are blessed to have you in our presence today. Thank you. So I wanted to get started with a question for each of you to tell us a little bit about your respective projects and organizations. What is the mission and heart of your work, the work that you're doing? What motivated you to start doing this work? And if you'd like, you can feel free to share any websites, social media, portfolios, and or upcoming events that you may have. And you should be able to share your screen, but just let me know if you can't. Edie, why don't we get started with you?
Hi, everybody. I'm Edie Rodriguez. I'm originally from Yanaguana, Yacatzel, Tecate, so-called Central Texas. I am Tonkawa, Karankawa, Coahuilteca. On my mother's side, I was born in my ancestral territory there in Texas. And on my dad's side, he's from Cuba, but he's of mixed Black, Indigenous, and European blood, but the Indigenous side comes from Texas. So it's really crazy because it's in myself, I'm my own stolen sister. And I am that gap that they don't ever talk about of the brown red experience in Texas, that we were part of the slave trade. And so I come to you today, thank every one of you for the opportunity, the time you're giving me for these warrior sisters and brothers I'm here sharing the space with. I am no longer in my territory. I'm asserting my sovereignty here desde Mexico. This is not something I studied. I ended up, I'm a digital strategist and just kind of like creative. I use the internet to help defend my people and Mother Earth. I was not raised in my tribe. I'm from the barrio in San Antonio, from the west side. And it wasn't until I became a teen mom that I started to see that things were rigged in my community. It wasn't until I got to college. I struggled, I got through high school, but I got into college and I got there at UT. And then I got into Chicano studies. And that's where I learned what it meant to be Chicano and what it meant to be Mexican American. And as someone who is now like in this process of decolonizing, peeling off the layers of everything I was raised to believe in this country, I can tell you that what drives my work is restoring balance to nature and reminding us of who we are. See, we're here in this space under the title of Latinx. And while that is a space that people are affirming, that term is derogatory because it's a slur. It cuts us from our relationship to the land we stand on. Texas is occupied, but our people have been there since time immemorial. And so I came into this awareness in my 20s. When I found out that in the Rio Grande Valley, Monsanto had set up shop since the 1940s and had been basically giving us cancers for, I don't know, 50, 60 years. And it turns out that we were the birthplace of the biggest, heaviest agrochemical industry in the planet. Our people have been sick. And this is just one phase of a long history. What you, as you step into this of awareness of who you are as a person and as a community, it's one phase and one period in history of this ongoing genocide and this ongoing colonial project that always is on the backs of specifically the women of color and indigenous women and us as Chicanas, right? Because like we don't have our tribal names, so it's like, oh, who are you? Are you Indian? You're not white. I wasn't from Mexico. My family wasn't from Mexico. I went to the Springs as a kid, like I knew Central Texas, right? So I think for me, where I'm at now, that I use the internet every day to try to support the front lines wherever it is. I work specifically right now with indigenous organizations, indigenous tribes, indigenous people defending the water. As a matter of fact, this week and today, right now, They're in Washington, D.C., fighting for all of you because the pipelines are coming, and that means no clean water for you or your children. And so what one of the things I'm doing right now is lending all my digital juice, my inteligencia in that direction, because I cannot physically be there to support. As a Chicana, I see it in two ways. It's not a business, what I do. It is a responsibility. And it is also something that I need to do to provide income for my children, but in a good way that makes my soul feel good, that meets my purpose. And I think that despite all the isms, right? Despite all the search for identity and all that, it goes back to, what are we doing here on the planet? What do we come for? What is our purpose? And on my digital journey, I have come to find out that it's very much aligned with my journey to decolonize as a Chicana indigenous person. And as I'm speaking to you, I'm like nervous, because what I've realized is that all of you who are inside the belly of the beast have so much power. The rest of the world is just waiting. And so I know that I probably don't make sense to some of you, because it's not exactly like a capitalist economic model. But I can tell you that once you get in alignment and start restoring these relationships to nature that colonization has disconnected us from, and you start really tuning into yourself and listening to your gut and your womb, if you start moving in those directions, you'll be amazed how everything starts to align, and you start to realize that it's not necessarily the money that's evil. The money could do real good if it comes to your hands. So we can't think of money as an enemy, but we need to think of ways to let it flow in our direction so that we can improve ourselves in circles, ourselves as individuals, ourselves as families, ourselves as communities. And so I know that probably doesn't directly answer your question, but I think I'm kind of the anomaly here in this space, because I don't see myself as an entrepreneur, even though in that worldview, I probably would classify as such.
Thank you. Thank you so much. No, and I love that distinction between entrepreneur and thinking about, our responsibility, right? And how can we use our talents, and how can we use our gifts to make sure that we're meeting that responsibility. So maybe not entrepreneur, but definitely innovator, I think. Thank you so much, Edie. Plazothiano, how about for you? Would you like me to repeat the question?
Sure. I was just going to start talking.
Okay, yeah, no, so just mainly, tell us about the Chicanx Institute of Psychology, and what is the mission and heart of your work, and what motivated you to start doing this work?
Okay, so first, with permission of the 7 sacred directions, all of your hearts that are present, with permission of our ancestors on this sacred land, this ancestral land, wherever we each are. I am Jessica Plazothiano Samaripa. And I completely am in alignment with what Edie said. Exactly. I think it's innovative, and it is all of the creative things to know who you are, right? And that's how psychology fits into Mexican American studies, into understanding us, our identities. To know that we're native to this land seems mind-blowing. And that's why I was thanking our sister, our comadre Iris, and I'm sure I'm going to hear similar things, to where we're decolonizing and planting the seeds so that we know who we are. It's super important.
Oh, Jessica, you went on mute.
There. Once you know, you can never not know. Once you have that deep understanding that you walk with your ancestors, that you walk with all of who you are, you can never walk in a meek way again. Not to say, we don't have fears and all of that. But when we're talking to the students about what do I want to do, what my degree, every single position is a social justice position. And I'm so glad you have Carmen as an artist and Edie's también, you know, with her digital work. If you're a teacher, if you're a banker, who is getting the credit? Who has access to the loans to purchase land, to purchase a house? Who has access to land to plant their own foods? You know, who has access? So every single position is a social justice position. And that's what we do with Chicano psychology. We center our wellness. We center our ancestral knowing. Psychology has been, all the years, has been a white dominant, what would you call it? Discipline, or white dominant field. And those are the people who have decided what determines our wellness. Well, guess what? We're a collectivistic people. You know, we are not individualistic. So what someone that comes from that Western white dominant colonized capitalist framework might say would be like, oh, you know, you're codependent, which again pathologizes a connection, right? A way of being. That may be true. It may not be true. What may be happening is that I'm a collectivistic person. We go together, you know, we come together, we meet a consensus. We move in a circle as a people. So again, like Edie was doing, she was planting seeds with all these ideas about who we are. Well, and that is what I'm doing too. And all of us together here, we're interweaving here, like I have it also here as my backdrop. It took communities, it took families with a long history of making these rebosos, getting the materials, dyeing them. It takes months. And then, you know, we go over there and we want to haggle. But my point was, to make the rebozo, it takes all of us to weave together the different strands of thinking, the different understandings, different pieces, so that we can rise up as a people, right? So, I mean, I guess that's all I'm gonna say for now. And what did I really say? I'm not going to, you know, worry whether I answered the question or not, because I'm comfortable speaking in a circle, because the circle is a very sacred shape. It's a concept that our ancestors used and that we still use. It means that when we're all here together, there's no one up in front, there's no one behind, there's not a Western framework. We can all see each other from the same vantage point. It's a very important thing for our people to be mathematically congruent. So that was a special way in which we could honor all of us and who we are. So I speak in that way too. I come from here and then I go around, I say many things, and then I just hopefully tie it together at the end. But I think that the message here that I'm hearing so far is the power of who we are. So if you want to have a project or create anything as a student, or you know, shift degree plans or whatever, you know, once you learn to walk in that way, you know who you are, and you'll understand when you see that imposter syndrome, right? Which says, oh, I don't deserve to be here, I don't have the right, that internalized depression, right? You'll understand it. Why? Because you've spent time maybe with the Institute. We'll talk about that, the psychology of why we think the way we think, that centering of our wellness.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Yes, beautiful. And let me ask you, do you prefer Jessica or Plazothiano?
I think when we're talking about when I'm in the work, I use Plazothiano. Yeah, that is my Nahuatl name given in my Siembra de Nombre. So, but you know, if I'm in other circles, I might use Jessica. It's up to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Plazothiano. And Carmen, how about you? How did you come to the work that you're doing now, and what do you see as the mission and heart of this work?
Hi, I just want to say thank you for having me here today. And I love just hearing everything that y'all are saying. It's really resonating with me. And yeah, so I am a visual artist, muralist from Austin, Texas, and I've been, doing it for a while. And also I'm the co-founder of the Mosaic Workshop. And so the Mosaic Workshop has been a relatively new thing for me, but what I really love about it, it's creating a space for people to come explore the art of mosaic, and also explore it in a way where it's affordable, it's very free, and also teach them how to create public artwork for their community, for their spaces, or, you know, their work, wherever, and making it really accessible and making sure that there isn't this like stigma that if you're not an artist, or, you know, you don't have a creative background, that you can't create art, or that you can't, you know, provide something beautiful for your community. And so that's what we've kind of been doing with the Mosaic workshop, and it's been really great. We've been having, you know, small workshops with, it's very open. So we have some people come in who are 8 years old, and some people who are 70 years old, some with some creative background, some with absolutely none. And they're able to create this huge mosaic mural with us there alongside instructing them, but mostly kind of giving them creative freedom. And so that's been really nice. And, you know, getting people to reach that creative side that they have, that they just, that's internalized, and not everyone is able to access it as easily. So that's been one thing that I've been really focusing on a lot. I'm also a recipient of the grant for the mural arts in Philadelphia. And so we are working on projects based on environmental issues where we are based. So we're in Austin, Texas. So we're focusing on environmental racism in East Austin, an area that has been gentrified and it has faced a lot of changes. So right now we're focusing on those projects and working a lot with just meeting people in the community, people who have been there forever and people who are just arriving there, and, you know, creating a space for them to be able to have conversations about their environment, about the history of the places. And so I've always been really passionate about art as a kid, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do in the art world, or, you know, but while I was studying communication, that's when I started researching how people are advocating for causes, ideas, social issues that are going on in their communities. And I found that some street artists were creating graffiti, like protesting, you know, cities building dumps in their neighborhoods, or pollution and things like that. And a lot of this was unsanctioned art, but it was opening these people's minds and eyes to like, oh, this is what's really going on, and this is what the people who are in power are doing. And there was a way for them to stand up for what is going on in their area. So I kind of just went down a rabbit hole and found that people were doing it not only for environmental issues, you know, things to do with you know, just some like people in your like, let's say like in your community, some people who have done amazing things that have just been kind of pushed in the background and their stories aren't being told. And so I've been really focusing on that, you know, highlighting these people, highlighting their stories so that they don't, you know, just die off. They want to be remembered and they need to be honored in some way. I also grew up in West Austin, which is actually a very white area of Austin. And navigating that for me growing up was very challenging. I faced a lot of issues with my identity, being comfortable in my own skin. I mean, I still am dealing with those problems today. But growing up there and seeing it, and as I got older, went to college and stuff, I was surrounded by more people of color, and I was like, wow, this is what I really needed. I was constantly trying to change myself, adapt, or either fit in or tried to like hide in the background because I always felt like I stood out so much. And so growing up in an environment like that and not learning about very many people of color and the things that they are doing, because there wasn't very many in my community, just made me be more interested in that and made me want to research more people like that. And just in that process, I've been able to really get to know more about my family, my culture. So it's been a really beautiful process for me. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do with the arts, but exploring this has been kind of healing for me in the process, but has also made me meet other people like me, or, you know, realizing how this isn't just an issue that's happening to me or in my community. This is something that's happening everywhere. And so, yeah, it's opening my eyes to everything that's going on and how a lot of us struggle with our identity. Aside from that, I mean, obviously because of where I live and the society that we live in. I also do commercial and residential work, but my passion is definitely in the public art and creating for others or creating with community members.
That's awesome, Carmen. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate you sharing, the story of the impact that this work has had on you, kind of coming into a sense of your own identity. I think that's something that a lot of us, and particularly a lot of our students, can relate to as well. I want to go ahead and ask you kind of a follow-up question. So you mentioned it in your bio, and you mentioned it just now, that you came to this passion for muralism and public art while you were a communications major in college. And I was just wondering if you could tell us that story about how you came to that, and how you made the move from communications and marketing to the work that you're doing now, and what advice would you give to any student who may be in a similar position of like, oh, I've declared this major, but I've just found something else that I'm passionate about.
So it's actually kind of crazy how this happened to me. So I was actually studying studio art, and then I started studying graphic design. And I had this moment where I started kind of freaking out. And I think it's because I never saw representation of working artists of color. I never saw a lot of female artists. I wasn't surrounded by them. I didn't meet any. And I think that I just had this moment where I freaked out. I was like, you know what? I don't know if I can do this. I don't really see other people doing it. So why would I be able to? So I kind of freaked out, and I ended up changing my major. And also the artwork that I was creating at that time, I felt like I was just creating it because I had to. There was, I wasn't as passionate about it then. Like, I knew it was something I wanted to do, but I think it didn't have the meaning that I've been able to, find now, because I found that now I'm creating more for others and not necessarily for myself. Although I know a lot of artists who they specifically create for themselves, but for me, I feel like I'm giving something to someone or providing them some sort of experience. And that for me is very much way more fulfilling. And so, yeah, I transitioned to communication, specialized in PR and advertising. And actually, my very last semester, I did a research paper on social issues. And that's when I found that visual art is a great way to talk about issues that are going on with, let me say this, like, sometimes there's barriers in terms of like language and, trying to talk about these social issues in environments where not everyone speaks the same language, not everyone's able to read, but sometimes you're able to portray these things visually with just images, and that will pull anyone in, I think. And I mean, for the most part, I'd say I'm creating work that most people like. I mean, obviously you can't make everyone happy, and there's people who are confronted with issues that they don't want to talk about or see. And I mean, other times I just paint like pretty beautiful things, and I think that's great too, because if I'm painting flowers or nature, I think that, and you're in like a concrete space, which just office buildings and condos and like in a downtown area, I think that that's a really great thing too, because that's a way to remind us of all the beautiful natural things that are going on in the world, and that they're still very much accessible, or to make time to spend time in nature. But yeah, so I ended up doing that paper, and that's when I got in, started researching more about public art and murals and things like that. And graduated college, I had a job for a coffee company in their marketing department. And I told them I was an artist, and they would make me do random art projects around the office and things like that. And I felt over time, while I was still trying to find this job in the communications world, that I kept getting random art jobs here and there, or I would create art and sign up for art shows and things like that. And they started taking up more and more of my time. And I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to actually pursue this. So I felt like, because at that before I hadn't found what I was passionate about, or what meaning I wanted to give to my art, I didn't know then. And I think that that's why I struggled so much then. And I've been able to find that now. And I think because I've always had that drive, or that calling towards art that I feel like no matter what what route I ended up going to, that I still would have ended up where I am now.
Absolutely. Thank you. Such a fascinating story. I wanted to mention to all of our guests too that we will have a pretty substantial amount of time, I think, before we break today for you all to ask our panelists some questions too. So be thinking of the questions. I'm already have like 40 more questions for each of you, but definitely want to give our guests today some time to ask you their questions as well. Plazothiano, I'm going to come to you now. Why was it important for you and your partner to develop a community-based organization that focuses on psychology and wellness, specifically for the Chicana, Chicano, Chicanx community? And how do you see psychology as an aspect of Chicanx identity and community practice?
That's a good question. I love it. It was important because, well, for me personally, because I'm a mama. And I've been mamaing kids under the age of 13 for 24 years. So you see negative assumptions, you see stigma, you see inequities, school to prison pipeline, you see, that the water needs protecting, that we're in an imbalance, and what are we going to be leaving, right? Trying to heal 7 generations back and 7 generations forward, right? So when you're a mama, that's front and center all the time, because you have to fight and be that guerrera, that guerrero, guerreras for your family, for your children. So that is why I was drawn to strengthening our understanding of who we are. And the psychological perspective is what my partner brought. So I bring, I'm a moon dancer and temascalera, sweat lodge, all of those things. And danzante, like people would think of Aztec dance, right? And so he also is involved in those things, the ceremonies, and he's a psychologist. So he started at Notre Dame, and he was in psychology. He went through the library and he didn't see anything that represented who we are, nothing. And he came across this one book, Chicano Psychology. I wish I had it to show you. It's beautiful. It has the coat, the snake, on the cover, and it was from the 70s. And this was in the 90s. So he was like, what? Chicano psychology? What is this? And he started to learn about all the people that have gone before that have put their work into this, right? So weaving together again, like that Rebozo, weaving together the medicine and the psychology, it is so important to create a culturally competent framework. So we'll do trainings for therapists, trainings for educators, mental health professionals, since it's been a field that has caused harm to our people, we've reworked a lot of frameworks and brought our own, right? Our own frameworks, our own praxis, our own pedagogy that supports who we are. And in that, like Godman was saying, she really struggled with identity. A lot of us can relate to that, knowing who we are, understanding who we are. So you come to a plática or workshop for community, it'll be like raza and trauma. How does trauma affect us, Or if it's for professionals, it'll be browning your clinical practice. And so it's just these ways that people have had to make shifts to be inclusive, to be supportive of who we are as a people. And so I think that has been very, very meaningful to our communities. I mean, we work with communities all over, right? US and other countries, the Chicanas in England and Australia. And it is always meaningful that we get to unpack those things, the questions we have about who we are, and know that power of who we are. So that's why it's important. And for the children, right? So that they don't see who they are in the schools, and that's been outlawed to have Mexican American studies and ethnic studies. Why does it seem dangerous for us to know who we are, Well, I mean, we will know who we are. We know this is our ancestral land, that we're on Turtle Island. You know, people are like, how can somebody be illegal crossing an imaginary border on a land that is our ancestral land? You know, so you start like thinking, and that is complicated when the power structure doesn't necessarily want to make those shifts, right? So it's an important thing, so that when kids look at themselves, and we all look at ourselves in college even, we know who we are.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. You know, I think about what Edie said in her opening statement as well, that, you know, colonization disconnects, right? And we lose that connection. And one of the things I've noticed in the couple of workshops and platicas that I've attended with the Institute is the incredible sense of homecoming that people feel
It's
attending
beautiful.
those workshops, and just feeling that kind of that reconnection.
And that's one of the main things we say, you know, here you're really in a safe place. You don't have to defend, you know, your lived experience. Here it's accepted. You can take off that armor from all the batallas, you know, and you can be here and know that you're going to be supported. So yeah, I mean, decolonization is an incredible process. And yeah, I do invite people to learn more about the different terms, you know, like we were saying, like, where does the word Latino come from? Hispanic, all these different things. So you can name yourself who you are, Anahuaca or whatever you choose.
Absolutely. Thank you. Iris, I want to come back to you and ask you about the term that you use, digital resistance. What is digital resistance, and why has it been important to the development of your work? And have you encountered resistance or pushback from the digital community in response to your work?
Digital resistance, the way I define it, is the power that is asserted by a community or people that are at the center of an injustice. So it's taking something that our generation considers common, access to technology, a phone, a camera, and using that device to document, digitize, and disseminate, that bears witness to what's happening, that ensures that the digital footprint gets spread around the world. And that's critical because we know we come from a people who've had our books burned. We've had our stories taken from us. We've had our creation stories taken from us. And so we have this, we are born into this time, and we have this incredible power at our hands. We're also born into this time where we see the planet is calling out for us. And it was this way for me, and perhaps it's this way for some other people. Before I got into this place that I have asserted like who I am and that I know my name, I felt like there was always something bigger. Like I was always like, oh, I want to know what tribe I come from, and begin to ceremony, or because I want to be in that place where I imagine them outside communicating with nature. And what I have come to now is that relationship with nature for us specifically as indigenous peoples, specifically to Texas, which is a holy land, that relationship with nature is very much alive, and that we have the power to start talking and start engaging with it, because we've been connected only for 500 years. We've been there tens of thousands since time immemorial. So that little 500-year gap, it's funny because once you start going outside and putting your feet in the earth, going outside and talking to the forest, or being in ceremony, if you connect with your elders, connect with Plazothiano, and get into that ceremonial aspect of who we are, our understanding of why we're here and what our responsibilities are, you start to understand that in this generation, with that technological power, you're also communicating with nature. And so it's like, this is kind of a lot of power to deal with. Like in seconds, I can transmit that, for example, on Monday, they were blasting LRAD sonars at Indigenous elders who were asking for everybody's water to remain clean. And unless if it wasn't for someone there with a phone taking the picture, showing the video, sharing it, not just on Facebook, but across the internet, and having like this whole coalition bear witness, then the system usually says it didn't exist, it didn't happen, oops, missing records, we don't know. And so I think it's what's going back to digital resistance, it's a power that the system doesn't like, that we become aware of. They're afraid when we get together. And understanding that we are circular, and understanding that we have this technical power, and that we're also stepping into this relationship that our ancestors kept alive for us. They kept the land in Texas alive. It was clean when the colonizers got there. They kept it for us. And understanding that gift, then I start to feel like we as Chicano peoples realize that we are the biggest threat to capitalism and everything that destroys life, because of that consciousness and our standing up to understand ourselves and our power, and getting a grip on that digital power. And that's what I mean with digital resistance. The possibilities are infinite. Change is infinite. It takes a spark, an idea, a palabra, and it turns into something else. And we are here with that power and with the awareness that nature's asking for us to recognize her. Maybe some of you talk to rocks, maybe some of you talk to the wind, maybe some of you talk to the trees. However you define it, whether it's ceremonial for you or not, you go out into nature and you feel that connection, you feel that healing. Guess what? That is the conversation. You inherited. It is your birthright. And it is also your birthright in this generation to be aware of that digital power and understand that it is in your hands. Not everybody outside of the US or outside of your community has phones, has internet still. And so that's what I think about when I do my work and I come and I cross into people that are suffering actively. It's this process of bearing witness with them, but helping them understand, like, we can't give up hope. We got to document what's happening. We got to share your story, because that's the work that needs to be done. And so those of us with that technological privilege, that knowledge of knowing how to send a message, how to click to send an email, how to open something up in a browser, things you take for granted, that's absolute power. And we should be mindful, because I feel that at some point it's going to get to the point when the Chicanos, because they're all inside the system and in this, we've worked our way up. We've worked our way up, and we have administrative level jobs. We work in government, we work in military, we are in every branch of the capitalist structure. But we also have that relationship with nature. And if for some reason everybody decides to wake up or hears the call on the same day, that digital power, we all press the red button, guess what? You saved the planet. You saved the planet. And so that's, I know it's kind of like, it seems outlandish right now, but as someone who is no longer under the messaging of Texas, of the media, I don't have to deal with white supremacy anymore in the same way. I don't have to deal with cops. Like, I don't have to deal with all those layers of that citizenship turning into, what is it, Berlin Wall kind of stuff happening in Texas. I'm standing here telling you that there is freedom, you have power, and probably digital resistance is the thing that's going to turn the page to the better world that we are here to co-create.
Beautiful. Absolutely. I love that. Using our privilege to bear witness, right? Using what we have to bear witness, and any means that we have. Yes, thank you. So this is an open question for all of you. What has been the single biggest challenge that you have had to overcome, and how have you overcome it? And originally I wrote the question related specifically to your respective projects, but in general, you can answer it from a personal perspective or from the perspective of your organizations or your projects.
I would like to, sorry.
Please.
Mine has been what is called lateral violence. I am acutely aware of where I am as a brown indigenous woman within the structure of the United States, within that society. However, because I do not conform, because I continue to use my privilege to uplift my people, I am subject to what is called lateral violence, violence from within my own community. What does that look like? Machismo. What does that look like? Being questioned, being shut down. I have a cyber stalker that I've had for 8 years from Austin, Texas. I didn't even promote today's Plática because some people have a problem with empowered women, and specifically indigenous women from Texas who know who they are. And it's not easy. I am asserting my sovereignty. I'm in my 8th year because of a law that I believe is dehumanizing and unjust in Texas. In Texas, brown women, women of color, are subjected to the will of men when a baby is born. It's not just the abortion, access to abortion issue we're talking about here, and rape and cases of incest, things like that. It also happens to our women when they have a child. In Texas, the father of that child, whether you have a relationship or not, whether he's abusive or not, whether you get claimed domestic violence, whatever it is, he has a right to your physical body until that child is 18. I am a human being. I was born in the ancestral lands of my mother and my mother's people. I do not consent neither to the United States or to the so-called Texas government. Those are colonial projects that are occupying my land. But now you're going to come and tell me that I can't move about freely on my land because I had a child with somebody else? So I fought it. I went to court. I quickly found out that the legal system there in Texas is about who you know. And they came after me for being indigenous. It was the first thing they put on the table. They said, this woman is a threat to her child because she takes her son to all-night ceremonies and teepees where they eat medicine and he gets drugged all night. As someone who in my early 20s barely started getting back into my traditional ways, I can tell you that that's not how the medicine works. And I can tell you that Texas is a holy land that indigenous peoples from the north to the south of the continent have traveled to, and long journeys and prayers to go hunt in the sacred forests of Central Texas, and then ask permission and go down to the medicine gardens in South Texas and harvest the sacred peyote medicine. That medicine is our birthright. And very soon into this, what they slide it under family law. Funny, my indigeneity comes up. And it's not illegal anymore to be indigenous in Texas. I thought we could have freedom of religion, but it turns out when you're a brown woman or a Chicana, so-called Mexican American, you stand up and you start saying, no, you know what, I'm actually indigenous, people have a problem. So that was just a start. The story gets on, it gets deeper, but long story short, they came after me for 10 years twice. And the second time I won, and they still would not give me my document, my legal document saying that I had the rights to my son and I had the rights to live in Mexico, move outside of Austin wherever I wanted. So you know what I did? I took everything in my house and I put it outside on the street. I saw my neighbors come get it. I took the little that I had and I went south to Mexico. And you know what happened? The community embraced me. I began to heal. It took me years, but I had to peel the layer of police criminality off of my soul because I had been raised to believe that following the law was moral. The law was wrong. The law was wrong. And so it spurred me. Thank you, Austin, Texas, because you helped me get free. And it spurred me into this journey that has me here in my strength, in my power, walking in my best way I can in balance with nature. I'm here about to drop a music video in a month. You know, I miss my people. I miss my land. But I can tell you what, asserting myself as a brown woman, as a Chicana in her power has been the most liberating thing I've ever done. And I would never have known if I hadn't crossed that uncomfortable boundary and shattered everything I have been raised to believe. And it's work. It is not easy. But you know what? I've done it, and I'm telling you, you can do it. And you can survive. Absolutely, you can survive. Sorry, I go in circles. I'm used to dealing with a lot of tribes, so we speak circularly and we don't always get to the point. We storytell. So yeah, hope that helped.
Yes, absolutely. And please, no apologies needed. It's beautiful. And I don't know if you can see in the chat, but everybody's sending their abrazos, mandando abrazos a ti, Iris. Thank you so much for sharing that powerful story. You know, I think that, you know, we've heard also from Plazothiano the way that about the criminalization of being brown and being a mother, right? And yeah, I don't know, Plazothiano or Carmen, do you want to speak to any of the challenges that you've had to overcome to get where you are?
Yeah, I can speak. Carmen, did you want to go first? No. Okay. Yeah, a lot of the challenges are that peeling away the internalized oppression, right? Understanding the invisible. A lot with the Institute, a lot of the times we make the invisible visible, right? So we are hard on ourselves. Oh, why can't I make it to class? Why can't I get my work done? Why can't I, you know, find a good job, blah, blah, blah. But once you understand, you know, that there's racist institutions that are playing, have a real hand in your daily life, right? A real hand in access to different things, a real hand in what you think about yourself, right? What we think of ourselves as a people, the stigmas, the criminalization, all of those things, they affect you, right? So a big thing is peeling away those layers, is really standing firm and believing who you are. And for our work, right, it's really challenging in these systems that be for people to understand who they are, right? So that's been challenging. You know, certain people just feel certain ways and don't really know why or how, right? Like somebody's like, oh, I don't like use the term raza. That's too like, you know, like they'll think maybe like low class or something, or Chicano, no, that's too political, or that's too, no, that's too, you know, you've been, yeah, in that country a long time. And there are just so many different ways to think about us as who we are, and that divide us, right? And once you start to learn and understand, then you can, like we've been saying all along, right, be in that power. So one of our challenges has been for people to be able to make those shifts of understand why is it important to think about our wellness, our mental health? Why, you know, why would we spend time? Why do we do trainings? Why do we have workshops? You know, just really understanding the importance of knowing that we have, I don't like to use the word value and worth because those are capitalist terms. But that you have, I'll use the word strength, right? Fuerza, those things, right? So just the internal work, I think, of coming together as a people, that internal work is challenging. And it would be challenging if we tried to work with organizations that, you know, were part of those dominant structures. We don't. We're supported, the community supports us, we support each other. We don't try and get any of those, you know, corporate monies or anything. We don't do that. We have nothing to do with that, because then they'll shut us down, right? They will start to dictate, you know, what we teach and how we learn. And we want that freedom to learn all of who we are, you know, those concepts like chinachli, right? The moment that the seed becomes a plant, that moment of becoming. I mean, what a beautiful concept that our ancestors gave to us, right? But we're not going to learn that in these structures. So So hopefully, well, what I was saying is that we just don't participate in any of that stuff so that we can continue to flourish as a people, to tend to our hearts, right? To tend to that healing that we were talking about, so that we can move forward. And I know that, as students of ACC, a lot of the times, you just don't feel like you're having success. But then what you do is you shift an understanding of what that word success is, right? Or if you don't feel like you're producing, you shift the understanding so that production isn't your goal, creating is your goal. So whenever, you're struggling in school, you're like, oh, like I was saying, I'm not making it to class, I'm not doing the work. Then you shift to where hopefully you can find support with people that can work with you. And that's where we come from the mental health standpoint. Actually, Dr. Samaripa is a dean there. My Dualidad is a dean there, the mental health, clinical mental health department. So you can always, reach out to him. He's there, an ACC dean. So you can reach out to him. You can reach out to us at the Institute or the communities. Now, I think you've been doing this excellence. I think you said for a month, right, Lydia? So all the people that you've heard from, Gautam and Edie's, we all talk about supporting each other, right? And the strength in the giving. So I don't want to speak for everybody, but I'm pretty sure if you reach out to any of the people that you heard from, that we're willing to help you in making these shifts or understandings that bring you the wellness and the mental health that you deserve.
Thank you so much, Plazothiano. Carmen, do you wanna add anything?
Yeah. So question was challenges, right, that we faced. I'd say that the biggest challenge that I deal with, that I have been dealing with for a long time, and I'd say that I still do, because it comes in waves, is definitely self-doubt. I think being an artist is really hard because, especially for me creating in a public space, I'm constantly questioning how people are going to react to my work. What emotions are they going to evoke? Is it going to evoke? Is it going to have a lasting impression on them? Is it worth it? Is it bringing some kind of value to their life? Some positivity? Is it having like the effect that I want it to have? And so, yeah, I definitely struggle with a lot of self-doubt. And because I'm, more of a creative person, it has somehow turned into a business. And even though, I studied PR and advertising and all of that, I don't really have that business background, and I don't really think of myself as a business person and or a boss. Maybe slightly like a leader, but I also like to be on the same level of other people around me. And so what I've learned from, dealing with self-doubt or the waves that when they come is surrounding myself with others like me, other people who are struggling with some of the same challenges that I'm dealing with, building community with those around me. I've met so many people in different stages of, whatever they're working on, or if it's a business, or if they're also an artist or something like that. Being around those people has definitely helped me a lot, and realizing that I'm not the only one dealing with these challenges and looking for resources together. Because I felt like before, when I was just getting started, I was meeting other people, and I sensed that there was this kind of like attitude where some people, they were holding back on information, keeping things a secret, not wanting others to be self-sufficient, to be able to, get to where they are. Because I think that in a lot of fields, especially in creative fields, that people become very competitive. They don't want to give you their secrets because they think you're going to try to imitate them. When in reality, that no one can be like you. And but you do benefit from learning from others. So I've worked with so many other artists in times where I've definitely, doubted my abilities of handling things on my own, because I love the creative process and I love painting. I love doing the mosaics. But let's say like emailing and sending invoices and having these meetings and stuff, that's definitely something that I don't have the confidence or as much confidence in, but I'm getting better over time. And I think just understanding that others feel the same way and taking time and working with others, learning from them, taking bits of what, you know, you see from them and applying it, adapting it into the way that you work definitely helps. I've also sometimes just been straight up with people who I'm working with or clients or community members, just tell them like, hey, I've never done this before. Let's figure it out together. You know, I think that honesty has definitely helped me. And I mean, I've had some people that I've worked with who are very, you know, well known, and I get nervous. I mean, I'm like a little 5 foot woman, and it's tough to be like, hey, can you paint a big mural like this? Have you done something like this before? And I'm like, no, but I can do it because I know that I'm capable of, and I know that there's other people around me that can support me. So yeah, definitely surrounding yourself with others, I think, helps with self-doubt. And then say another challenge that I'm actually dealing with right now is growth, because I never thought that I would get to a point where I'm this busy, and I definitely have issues in delegating tasks and trying to figure out the right people that I want to work with or to, you know, bring into my space, because I mean, so many other people have been very welcoming and let me into their space. So I just want to make sure that I surround myself with the best energy. And so yeah, that's something I'm trying to work on right now, because it's tough, you know, letting people in or letting go of some of that control with my work. So I've had volunteers or young artists come help me on projects, and I love like working with them, meeting them, and you know, learning about some of the stuff that they want to do. And I just think it's so cool, because then it reminds me of how I was saying I never saw any working female artists or artists of color. And so I'm hoping that, you know, having these like young artists come help me is kind of giving them, you know, that inspiration or that drive that this is something you can do. I mean, it doesn't happen overnight. It's definitely taken me a long time. I've been now doing it for 8 years, and I've gone through phases where I've had to, you know, get a part-time job here and there, or I'd stop creating artwork for a few months because obviously I got to pay rent in a city like this. So it's definitely challenging, but if you have the drive, it's possible.
Amazing. Thank you so much. One of the kind of threads that I hear running through all of your responses that is really kind of powerfully moving me is this idea of community, right? And that, you know, and I had another question about supports, and, you know, I'm thinking back to Edie saying that, you know, you were embraced, you know, with open arms by the community there. And how, you know, we have this, we are a collectivist culture, you know, we are part of a collectivist culture, and our history of like mutualismo, right, bears that out, that we are all there to support each other. And at the same time, it's a matter of finding that community. And I think that, you know, Plazothiano, you talked about one of the challenges being kind of like peeling away the layers, and Carmen, you spoke about self-doubt and a sense of kind of imposter syndrome. And especially when you're subject to lateral violence, you're constantly questioning yourself, right? And that questioning, I think, can sometimes like break us off from community. And so it's really powerful to me to hear you all say that actually like reconnecting and getting back to others, right, to our connections with our community and with our homes is what is part of what can help heal, right, and help us overcome some of these challenges. Thank you all so much. Well, we have about 20 minutes left in our session, and I want to open it up to our audience. If you have any questions, you can feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll be more than happy to read them for you. Or if you have audio and video access, you can unmute yourself and speak to our panelists directly. And while we're waiting on some questions to come through, I'm just curious, aside from the amazing advice that you've given so far, what advice would you give to students who are aspiring artists and innovators in their own right, who may be going through some of these challenges? What's one piece of advice that you would give to them?
I can start that off if you want to. I think I always say I've been at least 9 different women by now. And when I think back to some of the younger women that I was, right, as a young mom and all of that, I didn't think I had the right, or I wasn't good enough to do certain things. So one piece of advice I would give is like I used my imagination, right? When I didn't have, access to things, didn't have, a bedroom, couldn't leave a bad relationship with my kids, things like that. I just couldn't do it. I would imagine being what I wanted, being my higher self, my highest self. I didn't have the words. I didn't have a lot of things, right? So I would imagine the mind moves something like 10 times faster than the body. So it's a good reminder that if you're trying to create the life that you want, the path that you want, the journey that you want, on these trips around the sun, right? Then you can imagine you can create what you want to be. And then you will be surprised how many times something shifts in a way that you didn't realize was even possible. You didn't even see it as an option. Something can shift if you continue to put your intentions in that way. And then you can create that life that you want. Like I'm hearing, Godman, Edie's, myself, we all seem to have created a path. It wasn't a direct, which there's nothing wrong with direct accountant, become an accountant. Great, you can use that in beautiful ways. You find your purpose, right? But if you're just unsure, I would really allow yourself to imagine what you want and then to give yourself permission to move in those ways.
Beautiful, thank you. Iris or Carmen, do you have any advice? What advice would you give?
Piggybacking off of that, I love that, Plazothiano. I love that, giving yourself permission. Because it's like this journey, and I'm speaking as a woman, but it's this journey to like accept your sacred divinity, because that's what we are. When we peel the layers back, we get back into the original instructions and the original ways, the old ways, and we are sacred. And in being born in a system that makes us believe, like where I grew up, they were tracking the brown girls to be secretaries. That was a big thing in the early 90s. It was like, be a dental assistant, be an assistant to a doctor, be a secretary. These trade schools came up, and there was like this big push for us girls to learn how to take orders and run everybody else's business like good little brown girls. Oh, and smile, because in San Antonio, we're known for our customer service because we're so friendly. So we're trained to be these floor mats. And it's not okay. And maybe that would work if it were a perfect society, but the reality is that we're surrounded by machismo from every angle, right? Because it's within our culture as well. And within this capitalist structure, we're at the bottom of that totem pole. So it's kind of hard to even understand ourselves as having power or being powerful. Forget putting a price that you're worth on your art, on what you came here to do. That is your gift. And I think that journey is going to look different for everybody. But what I can tell you is that if that seed was planted in you, that vision, that creative juice is a prayer, and it's potent and it's powerful. And just like Plazothiano says, give yourself permission and you're going to blossom. And here's another thing about it. Just like she says, the right doors are going to open. But I'll tell you, the nonprofit world isn't a perfect world. There's a thing called the nonprofit industrial complex. And those of us that are coming into the arts, having a consciousness of community, right? A lot of us initially, when we realize the history that's been taken from us, we feel waves of anger. and perhaps even create from a place of anger. But I would like to encourage that the artists out there kind of shift it a little bit. It's good to deal with your emotions, yes, but there's a thing called creation resistance, where we use creativity and beauty to resist in a way that doesn't require the opposite force of the other entity for you to stand up, right? So I would say follow your gut, stick with your people, and do whatever it takes for you to be centered. Whatever it takes, be centered, because as people that are living under that regime, they don't want you in peace. They want you constantly, it's shock doctrine. You're constantly inundated with over-information, oversaturation, this so-called race thing, which is a construct because it's the 99%. You know, it's the 1% that has the power. So it's like we're all these distractions from what we really need to do. We're here, we're human. Plant your feet, follow your gut. There's a reason you have that light burning inside of you. Honor it. Don't let the system make you believe that because you're not nonprofit, or you didn't get this little white piece of paper or that little white piece of paper. You came here to do something, and it's going to reveal itself to you if you keep your faith.
Awesome, thank you. Carmen, would you like to add?
No, I feel like everything that both of y'all said just resonated with me. Giving yourself the permission and setting intentions with your, like, you know, mentally thinking these things. And I feel like doing the work, that it'll lead you in the right path, in the right direction of making it happen.
Absolutely. It's great advice. I feel like I'm in healing ceremony right now. Thank you. And we have a question in the chat from Leah Saldana, who says, can y'all share some struggles or discrimination y'all have experienced being women and women of color in y'all's field? And what did you do to overcome that experience?
I'll speak to it quickly. I can say that my work life is definitely divided in two phases: living in the US and not living in the US. Living in the US, it was an onslaught of white supremacy, macro and microaggressions that made my every moment alive, breathing, so heavy. And because I was raised under that tension, I never really thought about it. I just kind of was like, me aguanto, I'll swallow my tongue. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to turn the other cheek. I'm just, you know. So it took me leaving to realize that I can choose who I work with. And I know that sounds so simple, but honestly, I don't work with white people anymore. Indigenous groups come to me and ask for my support, and I support them. I don't even put my name on it. I pray about it, the money comes. And I know that as long as I'm taking footsteps in alignment with what my gut is telling me, which my gut tells me I'm here to defend the nature and help my people, uplift my people, so we can secure our home, you know, our land, our air, our water. So overcoming that required me leaving a location of occupation. I had to step outside their jurisdiction. However that is for you, I encourage you to do it so that you can feel peace, because it's important for you to be in alignment. And now I exclusively, like when I have been approached by nonprofits, like a lot of times now it's like environmental justice nonprofits, I tell them no. Why? Because honestly, even just reading the way they speak in email bothers me. And I value my feelings so much que mejor no. Y la verdad, what that does is by eliminating out of my life what I don't want to deal with, it opens my life more for the things I do. And so if it doesn't come to me, I go to it. And I just keep thinking of it that way, and it keeps rolling out that way. But that's how it is for me. I don't know how it is for anybody else.
Such an important point. You know, I think sometimes too, as we're kind of rising up, and like Plazothiano was saying earlier, you know, how do we define success for us, right? But sometimes when people are approaching us, it feels like, oh, I have to take this on. I have to do this thing. I can't say no to this, right? When really it's in our power to decide what's going to be best for us and what defines our success. Thank you. So important. Plazothiano or Carmen, do you want to speak to? Yeah, go ahead, Plazothiano.
Yeah. I think so many things, like we said, bringing the invisible visible, like actually Edith was just saying, you know, she didn't realize she was under all of these tensions and pressures, right? So I think that understanding that those pressures that we're under don't need to be there, that you can choose, that you can decide what you do, that you can say for yourself what you will and what you won't do. Yeah, who you're going to work with, who you're not going to work with, having the right to say those things. I think that's all very powerful. And all along my journey, I didn't know that, right? Probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 women ago and all the way back that I didn't know that I could say no in general. You know, we have intergenerational trauma that we discuss sometimes, and you know, sometimes some of our elders were not, did their best, but caused harm, right? Our parents or whoever. And so much so that maybe you didn't believe you had the right, if you think about it, even to be alive, to take up space, to breathe. So then it's a great journey to get to the point where that you're talking about, to where people can say, no, I don't want to do that, you know. And even my daughter, she's 24, she's taught me so much, because she won't smile to people if she doesn't feel like it. And I'm like, mija, you know, oh, you know, maybe you could be friendly. And she's like, I don't need to be anything, you know. Like, and I'm like, you're right. My kids have always been my greatest teachers, and they still are. Because they put that obsidian mirror to your face and they show you who you are, right? And you can either be your better self, or you can scream at them because it's upsetting that, that somebody puts that mirror to your face. So back to struggles that we have, they're a lot of the times invisible. The way you're being spoken to, the way you're expected to speak, even, you know, having to speak in the dominant culture's ways of speaking, Western, colonized, you know. My elders corrected me not to say the colonization in Mexico, those 500 something years ago. They say invasion, say what it is. It was a violent invasion, right? And there's ramifications all the way down, and that we still deal with, that we still carry. So being able to speak in whatever way you want to speak and know that's valid, whatever language you want to speak and know that's valid, whatever accent you have and know that that's beautiful, you know, so many ways that, yes, I have felt lesser than, right? So that is all very invisible, not being able to, you know, purchase a home, not being able to get a car, not being able to, you know, certain things for my kids. Well, if you step aside and don't make those your goals, right? That's powerful, but also you want to be able to provide for your children. So not being able to provide for children, that is a discrimination. That is a violence, right? Not being able to access healthcare is a violence. Not being able to feel pride in who you are, that is a violence, right? So that question about discrimination, right? Especially as mujeres, right? It happens in so many ways that we're not aware of, right? And we talk about community, like not even knowing what we're missing, what we used to have as a people, what we're missing now, right? Like, for example, we'll have tequio. Tequio is a concept that our ancestors had, and we still have it now, where we go together, we work together as a community, we build something together. Carmen, you actually do tequio a lot. You build something, you work together, and then there's like 4 kind of pillars of it. And then the last one is when you eat together, you know, you share a meal, you share in that wellness together. So we don't know we're missing that. We feel a hole, a wound, but we don't know we're missing those things. That's a violence. That's a discrimination. So all these things, and then there are the more tangible discriminations. Like I had one of my children being pulled into the school to prison pipeline, you know, arrested seventh grade, and we had to resist with great force, and then we had to learn the language of that he had mental health struggles, right? So you take a dark brown young man who has what they call flat affect in the mental health terminology, a serious face, and people are scared, they're threatened. But you know what? He had anxiety, he had very severe struggles. So that is a discrimination. And I could go on forever about them, really. There's so many. I know a lot of the time when that question is asked, we're looking for big, like, not that the question is looking for that, but as a society, we're looking for things to point to, like, we don't really have discrimination anymore. We don't really go through. It's because it is multifaceted, it's multi-layered, it's invisible, but it is affecting our bodies, it's affecting our spirits, it's affecting our families. If I'm yelling at my children because I've gone through some stuff all day, guess what? That is something that has affected my family in a negative way because of something that I have experienced. Dr. Samaripa will talk a lot about like micro and macro aggressions. Like somebody will say one thing and you're like, oh, well, what's the big deal? It's just a comment. It's just so you were ignored. Or you think the teacher's ignoring? Well, it's not a big deal. But that's one raindrop that you witnessed when it's been raining on the people for hundreds and hundreds of years, or on you, yourself. You just saw that one raindrop. You didn't see all the rain that they've been dealing with. So you think, oh, what are people getting so mad about? Or, oh, they're making a big deal. No, we have the right to speak up. We have the right to say our lived experience, So there's many, many ways in which we have discriminations, and that we have things that take our energy so that we can create. I mean, what a terrible violence that we have to go through all these things that then we don't have the energy to. That's why I always say, I'll wrap it up. I know I can talk. We all speak in stories. It's true. But one thing I always say is raising a healthy family. If you're a Black, Indigenous, person of color, Latino fits into that, Mexicano, Chicano, whatever you call yourself. If you're raising a healthy family, that's a revolutionary act, because you have so many things, against you. And the Institute of Chicana Psychology always says another thing is that resistance, wellness, just being well, is an act of resistance. And that's why we do the work that we do, because to be well, to raise a healthy family, it's an act of resistance. And the question then becomes, resisting against what, right? To impact that. That's the thing, Mateo.
Thank you so much. Carmen, do you want to?
Yeah, I know we don't have a lot of time, so I'll just be really brief. And also, thank you for sharing this space with me today. I just love everything that y'all are saying. Yeah, I don't have a particular one single experience that happened. I would say that I agree with them. It's just this energy you feel, or the way that people look at you or talk to you. I've definitely dealt with that, and I see a shift. There's a change, and I know that now it's different. I think before people were wondering why, what would my work bring to them? What's the value? And now I think that people are understanding that there's a lot of other people like me who want to see artwork representing people of color. And there's a rise of these people demanding that, of people acknowledging the benefits of it, the good things. And so now I see a change. So yeah, the way that I've been able to overcome these experiences, I just kept on going. And in that process, people have started to see the value in my work and in my process, or working with other people, or the subject matter. And so now I have to be very intentional about what I say yes to, what I'm willing to put my energy towards, who I'm willing to work with. And one thing that I have noticed is that I don't know how genuine some people are that reach out to me. So, I want to make sure that I'm doing this project because I align with their mission, the people, and the environment, and that I feel like I'm a good fit. I don't want to be like a token, because I have been feeling that, these organizations or art galleries who I've known for a while or who have known me, but don't ever ask me to do anything with them. And then all of a sudden it's Hispanic Heritage Month and they want to send me an email that they want me to be their featured artist. No, I'm not going to do that. And because I can, you can tell if you've been around them and all of a sudden they want to make their group or their organization, their gallery seem like these are things that they care about, people they care about, but only when it's this month. Yeah, so I'm just trying to be more genuine and work with more genuine people, being intuitive. And if the energy doesn't feel right, I'm not going to do it anymore.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you all so much. I would invite you, if you feel comfortable, I put all of your websites in the chat, and if you feel comfortable, I invite you to add your social media. Yeah, there we go. And while you're doing that, Carmen, what you just said reminded me that we had Miércoles de Músicos and Músicas a couple of weeks ago, and Stephanie Vergara, who's the lead singer for the Selena tribute band, Bidi Bidi Banda, she actually was talking about how the group all collectively decided to add a diversity clause to their writers, to their contracts with venues. So that said that if the venue didn't support other Latino, Latina, Latinx artists specifically, and or people of color more generally, then they weren't going to perform for them, or that they would have to add others to the bill for that exact reason that you just said, that, they're a Selena tribute band, like they didn't want to be tokenized, and they often were. And she said that they haven't had much pushback from it, actually. That most of the venues have been accommodating and have it's encouraged them to reflect back on their practice as well. So again, I feel like this has been healing ceremony for me. I hope that it has for all of our audience, for all of our guests. Thank you so much for your patience as we got started today. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to spend with us. I can't think of a better way for us to wrap up our Latinx Heritage Month with this, we can call it Chicanxellence, since we're all Chicanas here, panel. And I want you all to know also that we don't just limit this to Hispanic Heritage Month or to Latinx Heritage Month. For us, the work that mi colega Gary and I, that we do is year round. And I was thinking about this as both Plazothiano and Edie were speaking, that I remember going to Mexico. This was a few years ago now. And I was in Oaxaca, and I had met this beautiful family, and I started talking with this woman, and she was asking me because a lot of times in Mexico, like they don't know how to read me. And I told her that I'm Chicana and that I teach Chicano studies. And we had spent all day on this tour in Oaxaca. And at the end of the day, she grabbed me by my shoulders and she told me, keep doing what you're doing. And it was this incredible moment of embrace and acceptance that, I don't self-identify as Mexicana for very specific reasons. I identify as Chicana. And it was just such a moment of empowerment for me. And it really showed me that what I feel is my purpose in teaching Mexican American studies and teaching Chicano-Chicanx studies is that I'm on the right path. So I want to share with you all that if you are interested in these conversations and in pursuing Mexican American studies at ACC, you can find out more information about it at the link that I just dropped in the chat. Also, here is our 2021 Latinx Heritage Month event page, where you can find the recording once it's ready of this event, as well as all of our past events, in case you weren't able to make it to any of those. So again, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And I wish you all well, and I wish you all wellness. And to Iris, Plazothiani, and Carmen, I can't thank you enough. Plazo con Mateo.